We hate fat people. You heard me right. We as a society literally hate and detest fat people. We can see this in how shows and other forms of media portray fat people, and the way fat people are portrayed in those pieces of media really lets us as a general audience know that fat people should not be viewed as actual human beings. There are a plethora of reasons as to why we as a society do not view fat people as people. In this video, I really want to talk about how the portrayal of fat people or non-skinny people in shows/media has really affected our society and our generation as we know it today. So if you're interested in hearing my opinions on this topic, keep on watching. So the whole reason why I even wanted to make this video in the first place is because of Jeanette McCurdy. Jeanette McCurdy recently just released her book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, where she released a lot of damning details about Nickelodeon and how they treated her, as well as her own personal issues with self-esteem, as well as her relationship with her mother. But something that I noticed in revisiting Nickelodeon's old media that had Jeanette McCurdy in it is how there was an issue of fatphobia and there was a lack of representation of actual fat people in those shows. But something that I noticed as a phenomenon that happened a lot in these kids shows is that the main character will always be the skinny pretty friend and her best friend will always be the fat unattractive/weird one. And we can see this in the case of Jeanette McCurdy's most famous character, and that was her portrayal of Sam in the show iCarly. And we can really see this weird phenomenon going on in the show iCarly, where Carly, the main character, is supposed to be the pretty, attractive, docile, pretty friend, and she's skinny, and Sam is supposed to be the unruly, ugly, fat friend. And we know that even though Jeanette McCurdy is literally skinny and she literally isn't fat at all, she is portrayed that way because of the specific casting, where you take a really skinny person with another skinny person, but in comparison, one is obviously going to look fatter or chubbier. And we can really tell that the character of Sam was really not supposed to be the attractive friend because of the way she was written. I remember there would always be scenes where dudes were always so intimidated by her, and even the major reveal that Freddie and her were dating was such a major shock to fans because everybody was like them together, and it wouldn't have been that way if she was portrayed as the skinnier, prettier friend. And I also want to talk about the way Dan Harmon is especially a very sick and evil man, because it's obvious at the time that Jeanette McCurdy really had a disordered way in her relationship to food, and the fact that she was forced to portray that archetype of a glutton, I know that she was suffering so much, and I really feel like it's a very despicable situation that little girl had to go through growing up, because no one deserves to go through a situation like that. But iCarly wasn't just fatphobic in terms of the two main characters, Sam and Carly. There was also a bunch of fatphobia as well in the portrayal of the character Gibby. Gibby was one of the main male characters throughout the entire runtime of iCarly, and his entire bits / joke surrounding him was the fact that he was fat. Like, that was his entire joke, the fact that he was fat, and he would always take off his this show was weird. He would always take off his shirt, hit his fat, and it was supposed to be funny because, get it, fat people should be ashamed of the fact that they're fat and should not be proud and be showing off their fat bodies. Like, I remember now, looking back on it, how weird this whole entire show was, because now that we know about the weird fetishes of Dan Harmon, do you think he had a little bit of a weird thing going on with Gibby? Because for what reason was that little boy always taking off his shirt and jiggling his fat rolls? Like, now as an adult, seeing that used to be a thing I used to watch, it's giving weirdo vibes. Like, overall, the comedy for iCarly does not hold up in 2022. And now that we really know that Dan Harmon is a literal sick weirdo, I don't think we should really be engaging in this type of media at all. Victorious is also another very terrible show made by the really gross creator known as Dan Harmon. And yet again, we see issues of fatphobia popping up in this piece of media. As you guys can see by this current lineup of characters, most of these characters have the same exact body type, the girls, the boys, and the only person who even has a little bit of a differing body type is the character Trina, and we can tell that she is supposed to be the fat character of the show, even though sis is literally mid-sized. Trina Vega is the older sister of our main character Tori Vega, and just like Sam and Carly, she fits into the fatter friend, skinnier friend archetype, and she can also be classified as a duff. The duff is also known as someone who is called the designated ugly fat friend, and we can see this with how both sisters are characterized. Tori is the skinnier sister, and she is always perceived to be desirable, and she always gets the guys. Like Tori, throughout the entire show, she has a bunch of different dudes wanting her, and she literally is the hot sister. But in the case of Trina, she's always characterized as the loud sister who's always doing weird, gross stuff, and she's just always doing too much, and she is perceived to be the ugly fat sister, and everyone is always comparing the two sisters, and because of the comparison, Trina is always looked down upon as the Duff sister. And so Trina can be paralleled to Sam from iCarly in the way that she is the bigger one, and even though these girls are literally beautiful and they're literally not even fat, at least be fat if you're gonna be fat, you feel me? These girls are literally mid-sized or even skinny, and it's just the way that they were portrayed that makes them the fat friend. Like, I feel like the issues of fat phobia wouldn't be so rampant in all of these kids media if we literally just had one fat character who was perceived as attractive and had romance happening for them. But when it comes to the fatter character in any of these kids media shows, they're literally portrayed to be unattractive. And I would like to propose a theory here real quick, that the reason why these shows have a lot of fat phobia is because at the time that they were made, Dan Harmon was like really overweight. So maybe a lot of the issues in these shows are representative of the fact that he could have possibly had some body issues of himself, because only recently now, with all of these controversies and him leaving Nickelodeon, has he literally lost a lot of weight. So maybe his portrayal of these bigger women, in heavy quotation marks, is trying to be a way to deal with the fact that he has some possible self-hatred issues of his own. But now I want to move on to a different network and explain how I feel like these shows also had a bunch of fat-phobic tendencies as well. So I just came for Nickelodeon and how they had a lot of fat phobia in their media, but Disney is not safe either. We already know that, let's say in the Disney princess lineup, none of them girls is bigger than a size maybe 3 on a lucky day. But I want to talk about the issues of fat phobia in Disney's live action shows. And the first show I really want to tap into is Business of Waverly Place. So Business of Waverly Place is one of the few shows that have nothing to do with Dan Harmon, thank God, but they still have a bunch of fat phobia in their show. So in this show, we obviously have Alex Russo, who's the main character, and her best friend Harper. And we can see that there is a Duff dynamic going on between Harper and Alex. And what makes this Duff portrayal super bad is that Alex and Harper are each other's only friends, and Alex is just known for treating Harper like trash. And it's really sad to see, because my girl Harper deserved everything. And we know that Harper is supposed to be the Duff of this relationship because she's always characterized as the weird one. Like I already told you about how Sam from iCarly was always eating and she was always mean, and how Trina was always rude and loud. Well, the whole way that we as the audience know that this fat character is supposed to not be attractive is the way that Harper always dresses like she wants to be a Willy Wonka character, and she has a really weird art style. Like back in the early, girl, I don't know, I'm gonna put the time that this show was popular, it was not okay to have a unique art style. Like if Harper Finkel was to jump in our 2022, she would be eating the girls up on TikTok. But back then, if you dressed like that, you were considered a major weirdo, and that's how we know that Harper is supposed to be the Duff type. Like we also didn't see that Harper had any really like major love plot lines like Alex did. I remember every season Alex had something going on with a love interest, and sadly Harper would just have to watch. And this is really sad because like I feel like fat people deserve to be perceived as attractive too. Like it isn't just skinny people who deserve to be plus size. And don't even get me started about how like none of these shows really have any like plus size male representation. The show that kind of does have plus size male representation is The Proud Family, but that show also has a lot of issues as well, and that's the next show that I'm gonna really dive into. Just like Wizards of Waverly Place, The Proud Family is also a show that exemplifies fat phobia and just so happened to be on the Disney Channel as well. Both The Wizards of Waverly Place and The Proud Family are Disney shows, but unlike all of the other shows that happen to be on this list, The Proud Family deals with fat phobia and how it relates specifically to Black people. Just like all of the other girls that I talked about in this video, Penny Proud is the titular skinny, pretty, attractive friend, while her best friend Dejanay is considered to be the Duff of the friend dynamic. But unlike all of the other girls that I mentioned on this list, Dejanay gets some of the worst Duff treatment that I've ever seen an animated character get. And she has a love interest in terms of the character Sticky, and this man, like half of the comedy of his character is literally I don't even know, dogging and shaming and being disgusted by Dejanay and her antics. But the way Dejanay is continually treated by others is so disgusting to see, because it literally is just representative of how America and overall the Black community see dark-skinned women. Like, Dejanay is a terrible walking stereotype. Like, she reminds me of this specific really disgusting character from the show Martin, and it's just so gross to see. Like, Dejanay comes from a family with all these kids. All the kids act bad. All of the kids have stereotypically ghetto names like Spices. I'm just gonna put a few examples for you guys to see on the screen. And the way Dejanay is drawn is even borderline offensive. Like, we can tell Dejanay is supposed to be a big girl. We can see that. Like, based on her silhouette in comparison to her friends, we can just tell that she is the big girl. But the fact that the creator decided to specifically have Dejanay's belly hanging out of her clothes is just to be like a little bit of a comedy thing. To be like, oh my gosh, she's so fat that she's literally spilling out of her clothes. And what's so sad about this situation is that in the original Proud Family, Dejanay was our only dark-skinned representation, and she was fat. So not only do you have, like, I don't even know, like, colorism at play, you also have fat phobia. And I guess they did a little bit better in the Proud Family reboot, like Penny Proud. I think it was called Proud Family Louder and Prouder. That's what it was called. But Dejanay even acts more ghetto and loud and is more annoying. And I really don't like how fat people, but specifically dark-skinned fat women, are treated. It's giving very much the Lizzo situation, where every time Lizzo tries to have any rights, people are like, ew, you fat pig. And I really feel like that's exactly the situation that's going on with Dejanay. And also, it doesn't help that Dejanay also plays into like the Jezebel stereotype. I'm gonna put a little quick description of what that is, but it's practically when they over 18 plus get like young Black women and make them hyper inappropriate, if that makes sense. Like the way sis was chasing after Sticky when Sticky was definitely in terror, I didn't like that. And I also don't like how that's the only fat character that we have, and she acting like that. She's acting crazy, undesirable, loud. Like, damn, can we at least have one Black character who is even a little bit desirable? Like, I remember in the Proud Family Louder and Prouder, there was a major plot point where it was like she had to lose all that weight to get skinny. I don't even know what happened, but like in 2 seconds she gained all that weight. And I really wish we would have seen her be the desirable cousin the whole entire time while being fat, because I really feel like at the end of the day, I think they learned that you can still be loved as a fat person, but I really wish she would have just been the hot cousin and fat the whole time, you feel me? But I really want to talk about how like light skin privilege as well as skinny privilege, I'm gonna call it skinny privilege, has also let Dejanay's best friend Penny Proud get a bunch of opportunities. Like the fact that Penny Proud is the skinny light skin friend of the whole entire group or whatever, she gets so many opportunities. I remember that one time she got with the Wiz and she was a viral pop singer or something. She was called Penny instead of Penny. And I feel like it would just be nice for one episode, because this is a series where there's like a bunch of episodes. If Dejanay can be that hot girl, like she's the hot girl, we can have one episode where she is seen as the hot desirable one in comparison to Penny. Like that would be so subversive to this really annoying ugly duff trope that we get. And I really feel like we live in 2020. We know that shaming fat people for being fat ain't it. So we deserve better representation. I feel like we deserve to see fat people be people. A lot of the early 2000s kids media was really not it. A lot of the media that we consumed as kids was so fat phobic, and obviously subconsciously I really feel like we absorbed it, and that's why a lot of us have a lot of body issues as well. We don't have a lot of positive media where fat people are seen as attractive, and obviously if we don't see good representation, we're going to internalize a lot of damning and negative internalizations. That's what I'm gonna call it. As we all move towards being more inclusive in the media that we consume, I really hope that we get a plethora of different characters who are actually fat and have their own character arcs that do not revolve around them being the ugly duff friend of their friend group. And I really want to see more shows like Steven Universe where different body types are acknowledged and praised for being unique. So if you guys like this video, make sure that you like this video. If you want to see more from me, make sure that you hit the thumbs up button and share this video with your friend. It really helps, guys. Like it really helps. And make sure you subscribe so you guys see what I have next for you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.